Hi, welcome to All the Sense in the World. I'm Joy Berta, the host, and today I am so fortunate to have Moneeza Khan from England. She is a bookbinder and incredible, and I'm so excited to have her here today. Welcome, Moneeza.
Well, thank you, Joy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I'll first preface with how I found you. You have a beautiful Instagram account. And I love books. I love beautiful, colorful things. And you're combining your artistic side with these beautiful creations. So I feel very fortunate to have you here because this is all about the senses and experiencing life through the senses. So I wanted to ask first, though, how did you find this particular niche of bookbinding?
Well, gosh, where would I start with this one? I think, in a sense, I would say that it kind of found me. I know that kind of sounds a bit.
No, I believe in that. I believe in that.
I wasn't really looking to, looking for a profession in bookbinding. I actually used to work for a family-run gift company many years ago in the early 90s. And I used to design stationery for them. And that sort of enabled me to travel around Southeast Asia, sourcing products like mostly handmade papers and stationery products from Nepal and India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. So yeah, I kind of developed a real interest with handmade stationery in those early years. I mean, I always loved handmade stationery. It was something that I've loved since I was a kid, but actually making journals and learning the craft of bookbinding, that came many years later, well into my late 30s. But yeah, to cut a long story short, the traveling that I did during those years through India and Pakistan and Bangladesh mainly, I had a lot of photographs from the time and journaling along the way, and I just couldn't find any books that I really liked or any photo albums that I really loved that I felt I wanted to put those memories into. So I kind of began by repurposing shop bought albums in a sense. And when they didn't serve the purpose any longer, then I thought, okay, well, let's see how this is put together. I would take books apart and try and assemble them in some kind of way. I used knots like you would create macrame with, all those different kind of knots I would have learned when I was in the Girl Guides. I tried all those types.
Like Girl Scouts. We have Girl Scouts, I think, where you learn different knots. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Girl Scouts. In England, we call them Girl Guides.
Girl Guides.
Yeah. So yeah, I tried all of that kind of thing. And when those started to fall apart, I actually found a book in a library. Remember those? Now, mind you, this was well before the days of I had internet, and before the days of YouTube and all that. Now you can go onto YouTube University and learn anything, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
So I learned how to bind really simple single section bindings, which is where a stack of paper is folded together and you have maybe between 3 to 6, 8 holes, depending on how large the book is. So yeah, it began from there, and then as I grew in confidence, I learned how to bind more signatures together to create larger books. And then when I was actually working. I was living in Pakistan at the time, taking you way back here.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I was living there at the time, and then when I moved back to England in around 2001, I was working in a bank for about 7 years.
In a
Yeah.
bank. Very different than your stationary traveling
Yeah.
excursions, right?
I moved to England, and I basically needed a job to
Uh-huh.
pay bills.
Oh, that
And,
happens.
and that's what happened. So, and I met my husband around that time, and we moved to Ireland. We were living in Ireland. Yeah, and then when the financial crash happened, I actually got a small severance package, and I thought, I'm going to just take my time here and look for another job
Mhm.
that I hate. Um, you know. Anyway, I was looking for jobs, and in that time, we had a spare room, and I thought, I'm going to just set up a little studio in here and start making books again. And a few family members and friends that were getting married asked me if I'd make them a guest book or a photo album, and then one of them suggested that I sell them on Etsy, and I had no idea what Etsy was.
Right.
How God, I put this online and people buy it.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
I'd done a couple of fairs and like wedding fairs and that sort of thing before that. And anyway, I put up a couple of journals that I made, and they just sat there for about a week or so, and then somebody bought it, and I thought, wow, this actually works.
It works. Where was your first customer from? Were you shipping internationally, or was this?
Yeah, from America, from the US. Yeah.
I was
I
wondering.
would say about 75% of my customer base is American. You guys
Okay.
just love journals.
We have too much to say in secret. No, we've got to get it out somehow.
Yeah, but that's what I love to see, because it's an interesting concept, really, that you say that as well, because I, in the beginning I had tried very much to sort of promote my work locally and in England, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be that much of an interest over here, journaling. I mean, obviously people do journal, but that not to the extent that the enthusiasm that people in America seem to have for journaling. And
Yeah, no,
you
that
know, I
yeah.
think that's a topic entirely.
I was going to say that sounds like I should be writing an article on this.
Yeah,
Because, no, really, maybe I'll put that in our Sentience website, because
yeah,
it's something interesting to approach and ask some questions. Why is it so popular?
exactly. Yeah, and I mean, obviously being, I'm actually come from a dual heritage family myself, but I think just being British, we tend to have that bit of a reservation, not just with other people but with ourselves as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't write my feelings down, right here what I'm feeling. No, thank you.
It's a crazy concept, isn't it?
So for me, it was always a case of very little writing and more about the visuals and how the journal looked and felt for me. Most of my
When you're making one, or when you're buying one?
making and also filling them, my own personal journals.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So most of my personal journals are filled with photographs, or maybe a little sketch or a quote that maybe resonated with me or something like that, and very little thoughts.
Divulgence of self.
Yeah. But that changed about 6 years ago. I started journaling more, and I went through The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron.
Yes, I have that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Someone introduced me to that book, and over the years, I've kind of gone back and forth to it and, left it, never finished the whole 12 weeks, is it? But anyway, yeah, so I think when I started making books mostly for the wedding industry, albums and guest books, it was nice. I really enjoyed it. And for the time that it lasted, but it was very restrictive in the sense of, the creativity, and was kind of bound to what other people wanted. I was given instructions and I thought, okay, I need to make this according to what they're telling me, without thinking that, no, you have creative freedom. You can do whatever it is that you want. You don't need to be making something that other people want or what you think they're going to like.
I know, I'm thinking to myself, when you're dealing with somebody, a woman looking for that perfect wedding gown, right? It's like they have the specific look, whether you can achieve it or not, sometimes
Yeah.
it's almost impossible. So yeah, it's really hard. It's high maintenance sometimes with weddings. It's very demanding, and it's like, there's no freedom.
Can you get me that particular shade of blush pink or
right.
So exactly. I think it's the blush pink that kind of killed it for me.
Wait, because you don't like blush pink or because you can't find it?
No, I actually used to really like blush pink as a color. But no, yeah, jokes aside, it was a very interesting time for me as well, because it actually helped me launch my business, and it made me understand how it also helped me hone my skills as well, because I was creating so many of the same kind of book that I kind of mastered that style. Mm-hmm. Well, we don't become masters of anything, but I became very good at that style. But I wanted to learn something new. I wanted to see where I could push myself to, become better at creating different kind of bindings that would be more suited to people that wanted to journal. And it was only around that time I actually had a couple of years where I was out of work because I was going through some medical treatment. Oh. And it was during that time that I started to journal myself a lot, just to get me through what was happening in my life at the time.
Wow.
And so I think that was probably the moment where I thought, this could be something that I could change my direction into. I could change my direction into maybe creating journals for the writing community or the artist community. And I was on Instagram, but not in a huge way. I was just kind of finding my footing. And then in 2019, I made the decision to stop taking wedding commissions. I just woke up one morning, I thought, right, okay, I've got 10 commissions left to do. After that, I'm not doing any more. And then 2020 happened. And
wow.
And then no weddings were taking place.
Right. That was a good choice in that way then.
Very good, yeah.
Well, and I do have a belief sometimes you have to sever or close doors in order for the others to open, right? I do believe that, because we do tend to stretch ourselves too far for too long, and it's
because you get comfortable, don't you?
Yeah.
You get comfortable and feeling, even though you might feel restricted and you know that you're not growing for the better and you're not learning new things, but yet it feels comfortable to stay in that spot because of the fear of not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or if it'll work.
Well, I'm grateful you stepped out of the wedding world and and began working for the creators, like the people who truly want to be inspired by those books that they're holding, that they have sitting on next to their bed. It's It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite interesting to see how people see them as well and receive them, knowing that they understand, knowing that the message or the feeling that I am trying to weave into what the book while I'm making it, or what I'm feeling or thinking, is somehow translated, and without me even mentioning it or saying it, they understand. And that is such a wonderful feeling. It's kind of mystical at the same time as magical. And, it that's what spurs me on to create more. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to stop taking wedding orders, was because I didn't feel a connection. There was no real love or spirituality connected to that creation. It was made, and I enjoyed making it at the time, and that was that. And that then that was it. Didn't hear back. Although I have had a couple of brides that contacted me like 4 or 5 years down the line to say, oh, I've had a baby now, and would you make me a baby album, and that sort of thing. So there are it's nice to know that people are still sort of looking at those photo albums that I used to make and thinking that they can be a continuation, like a family collection.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful that they're able to call you and have this work commissioned.
But yeah, so I think the decision I made to stop taking commissions really did help me. I know that for a lot of artists, commissions is a really good way to keep food on the table and keep your business running and keep your art, to create, showing up in the studio. But for me, it didn't work. I just felt really stuck, and I needed a better outlet for me.
So these people, they have these books, next to their bedside, or they're sitting there with them as they journal, and you, yeah, they have the love that you put into them, and you said these people are actually appreciating it. Why do you think that happens?
Well, I think that a lot of people that enjoy journaling, for one, see them kind of like as a vessel for their words, Yeah. And it maybe makes them feel that it brings them to their best kind of writing or their best artwork, in a sense, like a muse.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, a lot of the materials that I use as well already have a story to tell, They have history, and the vintage materials I use to cover the journals. A lot of the leather is repurposed. So there's already a lot of story behind them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, yeah, I do believe there's energy in objects, and that's something that I'm working with sentience as well. But when people find something, I think it is important to, or even see something online, I think you can gauge or get some sort of an energy. But if you're creating and building these things with natural elements, and the energy is already within these natural elements, as opposed to a processed, good or something, I think there's just more energy there,
It definitely has that connection. Sorry, I'm having another fit here.
So Moneeza, I'm wondering, what are those natural elements you're using you said you're using repurposed leather. What are some other things that you're using when you're creating these journals?
Well, I collect a lot of vintage and antique ephemera items that have maybe, like, say, brooches and tassels and textiles that have hand-woven elements to them, or embroidery. All of those things are used in the creation of the journals that I make. So I
Wow.
just see them as, I mean, a lot of the times when I'm developing a new collection, I would sit with gatherings around the studio. I'll keep piling a few bits and pieces. I'll go through my collection of vintage fabrics or other little bits and pieces that I have, buttons, mostly that I can, maybe weave into using as a clasp or
Oh,
a
mhm.
sense in the way that it can be used as a clasp. So I do see them. Like, it's interesting that you say, that they all have all these objects have energy, and they do. I feel that they do have energy that can be, passed on and created into something new, something old that's repurposed and sort of breathing new life into it. And it's all about, that sort of lingering sense that you have of creating something that is maybe a little bit sacred, in a sense, to whoever is the keeper of that book.
Oh, I like that.
And then they can continue that journey as well. I mean, the creative process begins a lot, many years before even my hands touch those materials that I'm using. And then once the book is created and sent off to its owner, they then add to it, and who knows what will become of it after that. So when I'm creating a journal, I'm always thinking about, what's it going to be like in 100 years from now, all tattered and torn? Hopefully not. It'll be still intact, but it'll be filled to the brim with words and art that have inspired the person that used it or had it, and then moving on to maybe the next generation that's looking through it, remembering their loved one that filled it. So those are the kind of thoughts that I'm having while I'm creating a book, and I can get lost in that process.
Does it
Quite
sound?
happy
Yeah.
for hours.
Yeah. I'm walking that same line with you, right? And it's beautiful thinking of the hands that once touched these items, and then here you are, you're recovering them, giving them a new life, and then you're sharing them. You're saying, okay, my dear friends, off you go into another place of love and
Another
sacredness, adventure.
or
Yeah.
story to be, added on to the last one. It's like the next chapter.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I've seen these books, and I know you put a lot of love into them, a lot. And I think that's one of the strongest, the powers that your work and your creations have is a very strong element of love.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't coming from a place of love and just pure joy, it wouldn't feel or resonate with the people that I wanted to resonate with, And I mean, I never set out to create a collection of journals thinking, oh, I want, a certain type of person to resonate with this. That if you create something that is coming from a place of pure inspiration, or, a place of pure emotion in yourself, the person that it is to belong to eventually will find it. Sometimes, I know this might sound a bit too woo-woo in a sense, but sometimes I think it's the person who wants this journal that is kind of willing it into creation, in a sense, if you know what I mean. Because I've often had people that have bought a book from me say, oh, I've been waiting for a journal like this for years, Or there was one lady who actually bought a photo album off me to, she wanted to update her wedding album. And her wedding album was from like 1971. And I just thought, you know, I wasn't even born when this lady married. And now here I am. I mean, I was born in 1973, and here I am now making a photo album for her wedding photographs that she's going to then, you know,
Wow.
put into a new album because she wants to, you know, keep those memories alive for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we didn't have, I wasn't around then either. So, but we didn't have the options, you know, and as you said, when you were looking around for journals or books, or there wasn't much option. And I'm still to this day, I go journal shopping. I love shopping for journals or stationery, or, you know, I love that. But
Yeah.
but when we don't have the options, we just buy what we back in the day, again, you just buy what you can find. It says wedding album on it, right? That's usually what people would do. And then they'd put these gorgeous images in them. I will say my great great grandparents on my mother's side, they had a leather bound, gorgeous, maybe it got lost, this beautiful style of artistry, because they used
Yeah.
to be really incredible, these, you know, with the old,
Tooling and all of that on it. Yeah.
yeah. And then it turned into kind of more of a plastic, no, I don't know, it's not plastic, but the kind of wedding albums I've seen maybe in the 90s. I was married in 2004. I did my best to find some pretty things, but
I think also then it just comes down to, you know, massively produced as well. A lot of the books these days are, you know, there's an element of it that will always have to be hand bound or hand assembled, but a lot of them have machinery involved as well. I mean, everything that I use in my bindery, they're all manual tools. You know, there's nothing that has to be plugged in.
yeah.
I mean, the least amount of gadgets that I have to use, the better. So, you know, I mean, it is interesting though to see a lot of people showing a real love for old trades like bookbinding. You know, I mean, bookbinding, I think in a sense is kind of enjoying a bit of a renaissance at the moment. Like many older crafts are, you know, people are turning to the old style of doing things because we want more connection and feeling more connected to creating something that you have put your heart and soul into, you know, even if it's a, you know, tiny little, say, piece of crocheted coaster or something. I'm just trying to think on the top of my head, you know, just people can make with their own two hands. You know, we're losing that ability to create with our hands, and it's really important to continue that. And there's so many, I mean, Instagram is just full of so many inspiring people that are doing such amazing things and creating such wonderful beauty that, you know, it's astonishing. Like if I'm scrolling through Instagram and I'll see something that someone has made, and it just fills me with so much warmth and excitement, because I see that, oh my gosh, you know, they're actually reviving an old craft. You know, like if you see someone weaving fabric, yeah, I've worked with weavers in the past, and it's such a beautiful skill that needs to continue. And I think the more people that learn how to create handmade or handcrafted items, the better it will be for us and for our environment, and just, you know, the future of our children, really. You know, even things like handwriting. handwriting in itself. So yeah,
It is a lost art in many ways. I thinking of the journaling aspect, I know it's a very uncommon thing. People that I've spoken with, I don't, either they don't keep a journal, or if they do, it's like, oh, I just I type a little note in my computer, or I speak in my phone, or and I'm like, what about the hand with the pen, the quill? Get a quill. No. Hand with
and,
a pen, pencil, whatever,
yeah,
and write.
isn't it? It's a ritual. To me, sitting down with my computer or my phone and writing out something spells complete dread, because it fills me with anxiety. I mean, I do actually send out a newsletter to my email subscribers once or twice a month, or whenever I have a new collection going. And I like to write to them like I would be writing a letter, in a sense,
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll actually draft it out, handwritten. I'll write it out and I'll think, oh, okay, I might say this or that, and I'll just jot it down with a pencil. Always have a pencil handy. But if I was to just sit down at my laptop and start typing away, I don't think the words would come.
Writer's block, right? Just like,
yeah, it's like, you can't even call it writing, can you? It's like fingers. You're
yes.
just fingers.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, and I feel it's very therapeutic. Writing with my hand. I had someone making fun of me the other day because I literally take notes all the time. I have always a little. I don't have one of your books yet, but I will. No, I just have this cute little journal. It's from Portugal. I like things from abroad. Because then it makes me feel like I'm close to that place. But but I love to take notes. I feel like I'm connecting better with my own thoughts.
Mind, body, and soul, isn't it? Because if you're just at a computer or on a device, it's not the same connection.
Yeah.
When you put pen to paper or a pencil to paper, there's that whole sensory experience that you can feel it, you can hear it, you can smell the paper. There's all sorts of things that are going on, but with a device, it's just nothing but
cold.
It's cold, and there's no personality, isn't there? Really?
Yeah. I mean, I will speak for some of those people who truly just don't feel comfortable. They're like, I just would rather, if they're going to keep any sort of notes or journal, they just want to be on their computer. It's like,
yeah, I mean, there is that element of convenience as well.
Yeah,
it's very convenient, isn't it?
And comfortable for certain people, right? It's just like, this is what I do. That's how I communicate with everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you're used to, I suppose. I mean, I suppose I could get used to writing more on a device, but I don't want to.
It's your choice. Yeah.
It's a choice as well,
Yeah.
It is very convenient and it's easy. It's easy to just sit down and start typing away, and you can delete and erase, and you don't have to worry about making spelling mistakes. I mean, when I'm writing, God forgive me, but even I can't read my own writing.
That's awesome.
All over the place, because nobody is going to be able to read what I've written.
My husband has told me that. He said, you're lucky no one can read your writing, so no one will ever be able to read your journal.
It's tiny, and everything's sort of like squishy, scratchy, scribbled into one word, sort of,
But isn't it like, it's a release? To me, it just feels so freeing when I'm sitting there and just, and every now and then I'll write in a different font, or I'll draw a picture, or I do a little weird squiggle that is going to be a symbol of, sadness or love or whatever it is. I can't do that on my computer. You know, I'm not a graphic designer, and I'm not going to take time to learn how to do graphic design, but I can try to be an artist with my hand. And I like that. I like to explore my own ability to take what's in my mind and put it on a piece of paper. I
Yeah.
like that.
There's so much potential, isn't there, with a pencil and a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, wherever you want to go, really.
Yeah, you can take it everywhere. I like that too. And you know what's fun to me, and maybe this is for those people who, I don't really want to journal. I think that sounds boring, you know. To me, it's, you know, go find a, we can talk about that, how to find that book, right? We'll talk about that, because I'd love for you to tell us that process that you believe, you know, will help people. But another, on a side note, is finding tools, little, you know, I have this little gold pen. I got it at a thrift store in Wisconsin. And I was so excited because it actually works. But it reminds me of a place I was, and it has a little story. So I like things with a story. So find those writing utensils that might inspire you to also write, not just the book, but the writing utensil. Go find some cute coloring pencils that are like, oh, these are cute, you know, or little crayons or smudgy little pencils, or whatever it is that makes you happy and encourages you to want to write with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about what brings you joy. Now, if sitting with a biro pen that's, you know, going to help you just write, then do that. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but if you want to, it can be, you know, it can be an experience. You can have all the fancy writing instruments that'll help you create that little space for you where you can just sit, and you've got your nice writing tools, a nice journal. And it does help, because you think, okay, what am I going to fill this journal with? But then sometimes you can also get carried away thinking, okay, this needs to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to begin by writing whatever's in your mind. Just put it on paper, you know.
I love that.
Everyday mundane thoughts. It doesn't have to be philosophical every time, every page, you know.
Yeah, and you're not trying to prove anything to yourself or anyone, right? It's like, I feel like we put so many expectations on ourselves, you know, but a journal should be, again, I use that word, freeing. It should be very, you know, and you may only want to write 5 words that day. It's just like, I woke up, I'm so tired. I don't know why, period.
Yeah.
Okay, off you go.
Yeah.
Off you go. It felt good. Get that out.
And also, that's what I really liked about the artist's way as well, was, you know, the concept of just brain dumping whatever you have in the morning. Now, I am not a morning journaler. I can't actually physically hold a pen in the morning.
I'm picturing you. That's adorable. They're like,
yeah. Or wake up in the morning and start writing as soon as you wake up. No. I need to get downstairs, get my coffee, and then, you know, take the dog for a walk, and then before you know it, the day's begun. So I like to journal at nighttime, and I usually just I don't even journal every single day. I usually journal at the weekends and have like a recap of my week. Because then you can sort of, you know, ponder over what happened, what went well, what didn't go so well. And it's a nice way to just sort of see, you know, where things that you've maybe overlooked, or areas that you weren't so grateful about something, or something that happened that you didn't really acknowledge, and then you're realizing it was quite a big deal, you know. So I like to do that, just sort of take an account of the week and just put it down in my journal at the end of the week.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you may go back and read it, or you may not, but it just felt good doing it.
I very rarely go back and read Sometimes I'll flip through to see if there's any. Sometimes I'll like make little sketches of an idea that's popped in my head for work. So I might go through them just to have a look at that. But very rarely do I go back and read what I've written. Well, mostly because I can't read it. It's not legible. But yeah, I mean,
it's funny you say that, because my daughter was sitting next to me the other day and I'm writing something, and she says, "Mom, that's why you can read those." I do a lot of genealogy, family history, and I've been reading documents from Italy. Okay, so I speak some Italian, and my husband's family, his ancestors come from Italy as well as Spain, but I'm doing the family history for his Italian, Berta, that's the last name, Berta. It's amazing, it's fascinating. She said, "Oh, that's why you can read all those documents, because the writing is as weird as yours." No. But it's
my mother,
good.
yeah, my mom actually did sent off for one of those ancestry things a while ago. You know, you get your sort of
The
you can
DNA.
go on, yeah, you have your DNA checked, and then you can go online, and then there's like matches. And she found a distant cousin in France, and I think there's France and Italy, and you know, it's really interesting. I was actually telling my husband, who's Irish, I said, "You need to definitely do something like this, because I can guarantee you that you've probably got some Spanish, or you know, even maybe, God knows,
Viking, Russian, I don't know, it could be Nordic."
Because of like the Arab invasion of Spain, and then the Spanish invasion of Ireland, and you know, that whole connection. Because there's a lot of like Irish names as well that are Arabic names.
Really?
Like my what names like Roisin and Kieran. What else? Niall. My oldest son is called Niall. That's an Arabic name or a Persian name. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I was reading about, so you are part Persian, is that right? At your
Well, my father is Pakistani, from the north of Pakistan.
Uh-huh.
My mother is half English and half Pakistani. And my grandfather, he was actually, well, my maternal grandfather, he was from British India. He came to England before around 1942, I think, before partition, as a British subject. And then India and Pakistan became independent, two independent countries. And then he had to choose which, if he wanted dual nationality. So he had family in the north of Pakistan. So yeah. But yeah, it's been quite interesting to sort of, you know, see how my dual heritage also, or mixed heritage, kind of has inspired the work that I do as well, you know, the journals that I make.
Oh, please tell us about that. I love that. Please, yeah, tell us a little bit about the inspiration.
Well, a lot of, I mean, I'll be very honest with you, Joy, a lot of what I create, sometimes I don't even know how to explain what I'm feeling, you know, it's very difficult for me to sometimes even put it into words. I mean, I have a vast collection of textiles that I collected when I lived in Pakistan during the 90s. And I was traveling around India and Nepal at the time. And, you know, now they've traveled with me from there to England, to Ireland, back to England. So many, you know, wherever I've moved, we've moved about a lot. And they always just get shoved in a box somewhere. But in the past couple of years, I've been working with them a lot more. And I have a little corner in my studio cabinet where I keep all the textiles. And I thought earlier on this year, I thought, you know, I'm going to give you the honor that you deserve. I'm going to display all of these. I talk to them. It's, yeah. It's
I love it. That's okay. That's okay. They will talk right back.
what are you going to turn into?
Mm.
What book will you become, or where will you end up in the world? Okay, maybe you came from Uzbekistan, you're currently in England, made by hands, God knows when, 20, 30, 50, 60 years ago, 100 years ago. And now it'll live on, as a journal. So when I'm creating with vintage textiles in the main, or say an object like an old brooch that I found in an antique shop, I'm always thinking about who made it, or who wore it, or what life did it have, what was the home like that it was kept in. All of these things, go through my mind when I'm creating. Sorry, it's got very dark over here all of a sudden. So those are the thoughts that I'm having when I'm creating, and I'm thinking about, if I'm working with, say, an embroidered piece from Pakistan, I'm thinking about the landscape that I've seen that now sort of just lives in my memory, the language, the food of that place, or the women that maybe embroidered it. Those are the kind of things that I'm thinking about, and I know that in a sense that energy is then kind of embedded in the creation, in the book, in the journal, and then it passes on, it goes on to the next person for them to then add their story to it.
I love this. It is so powerful, and it's something that I've actually thought about a lot myself, and I know what you're saying. I do. So I'm sorry, what?
It's difficult to articulate,
Yeah, but I know what you mean. I've had that experience with objects. I've had that experience with places I've been. I'm going to give you an example. So I love Italy, and I've traveled there often. And whenever I'm there, there's a very spiritual connection for me. It's hard to explain, and I've asked a lot of questions. It's like, why? I'm not Italian, so what is this about?
Yeah.
But there are things that I will purchase in order for me to feel that connection with Italy. And so you talking about these products that are giving people this, and they may actually resonate with something that's deeper than just how beautiful it feels or how beautiful it looks, but because the energy it's from like a Nepal. So imagine if this person has not a DNA connection to Nepal, but maybe there's some sort of a spiritual connection to a place. So I gather that from people that I've spoken to. My dad lived in Japan for a while, and to him, it's like the Japanese people, culture, all sorts of things has always, it's something he's carried on his skin and in his soul,
I mean, the Japanese aesthetic is just that I don't think you can get more sort of spiritual when it comes to creating objects that are both beautiful and useful. They don't create anything that isn't for the ultimate purpose to bring you calm and peace in your life. That's what I really love about the Japanese aesthetic. But speaking of Italy, I mean, my next collection, the one that I'm actually working on at the moment.
Tell me. I'm coming.
all about Italy. It's actually called Postcards from Italy. The original idea was to create a collection inspired by frescoes. But then I realized that it was evolving beyond that. It was becoming more about Italy as a beautiful country, and visually, it's just so appealing, isn't it? Everything. And a lot of parts of Italy, especially Naples, remind me of Pakistan, certain parts of it. not obviously not the food, but just the architecture in certain parts of Naples and even Rome reminded me so much of growing up in Pakistan. And I wouldn't say I felt a spiritual connection with Italy, but I definitely felt some kind of connection that has had us going back, many times to holiday there. And I've always taken loads of photographs of, nose right up to the wall or a door, or
Yeah.
it's like an open air museum, isn't it? It's
Everything. I want to take pictures of everything. A little puddle with a little flower and a little cobblestone, whatever.
every corner you turn, it's like, that's not. So recently I've been going through my archives of photographs, and I thought, I'm definitely going to create a collection of journals based on Italy and on the photographs that I've taken. And there's no spiritual connection, but there is definitely some kind of connection. And I need to get this particular collection out of me because it's been churning in my head for a few years.
So, well, that means it's meant to be then, right? It's been brewing and stewing within you. So it's time to let it go and share it with the world. So I can't wait. I'm on your email list, so I'll be sure to see what you have. I have some vintage photos of Italy. I found a beautiful, it was of, I guess that's Switzerland, Lugano, never mind. But, near the Lake Como area, but they're vintage. And it's interesting because you're talking about photos alone, whether they're from, a century ago or now, they have so much power and impact. Just the ability to transport you into a different time or a space. And I can actually sometimes smell the air, or, it's like I see the cafe and I'm like, I smell it.
Oh, yes. That's, isn't that amazing? Isn't it? When you're looking at a photograph, or the sense of smell as well, a scent can take you back, but a photograph giving you that feeling of being there, or that, you're remembering that moment, and it is a sensory experience. I completely relate to that.
Yeah. So back to journaling, do you feel like people can create those experiences for themselves by expressing their thoughts or words, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're creating it from a place that, where you're not blocked by judgment of yourself, you can connect with a journal in the sense that, if you see it as an inanimate object, but if you don't see it as an inanimate object, then obviously, it can be so much more. It can be a little universe into opening up into even manifesting a life that you are really wanting for yourself. It can happen if you put it down on paper, but if you don't put it out there, whether in words or, if you don't speak it, you don't write it, you need to put that out there. And I really believe that power of manifestation, especially in the written word, is a really powerful thing.
Yeah, you said the word willing, to will something. And I've heard that a few times. Well, not most recently, I've heard that throughout my life, but people saying you need to put your hopes and dreams out there. And I would say with journaling, you're committing it to yourself.
Yeah.
On
it's
the paper.
Else, it's for yourself. You're doing it for you. And I think, as if someone is really looking for a kind of self-care practice, I think journaling is probably the most rewarding and probably the cheapest,
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the easiest ways of self-care.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to spend thousands of pounds or dollars to go away on holiday, or to go to a different country, or go to a spa or a massage or anything like that. Self-care can be just literally a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, just to give you that time and that little bit of space to sit with your thoughts and to understand exactly what it is that you're feeling. Sometimes we just sort of rush through our days without really giving ourselves even a moment to think about how we're feeling. We're just going with the motions going through the motions of the day.
Yeah.
And that's many of us, I mean, most of us spend our days, you kind of just go through the motions of it.
Yeah.
But
And
I
that's,
think just
yeah.
gives you that time to just sort of pause and think a little bit about what it is that you want, where you see your life kind of heading, or not even necessarily manifesting something. It's literally just about being present in that very moment where you're writing down your thoughts. It doesn't have to be something even in the future,
Yeah. I love that. It's cheap therapy. No, I would agree. So
Anytime, anywhere.
I'm sorry, what?
Time, anywhere, you don't have to have a specific, there's no agenda.
Yes, and you don't have to make an appointment. You truly can just take your journal. I remember I had one moment where I was just so sad and I didn't know who to talk to. And so, and I'll give you quickly. So when I was 8, I started writing in a journal. Maybe someone had said, "Oh yeah, you should, keep a journal." Some little like leader or Girl Scout leader or church leader or something, they're like, "You should keep a journal. It's good for you." Okay, so I tried it. And I remembered finding myself uncomfortable, like, "Hi, I am, introducing myself to you. I don't know who you are," but I started addressing my journal as Jay, "Dear Jay." So I just started like, "Hey, this is my friend I'm writing to." And it was beautiful because as an 8-year-old, I immediately connected with this fact that I was going to write to my friend and tell my friend how my day went, or something that happened. And it didn't feel uncomfortable because this friend that I found never judged, never questioned, never made me feel bad. It really was just this, "You're going to listen to me because I want to talk to you, please." And I was very open with Jay, and still to this day, I write to Jay, just initial J, "Dear Jay."
Yeah, I mean, it's the best kind of listener, the best therapist. Just, I mean, if anybody is thinking about journaling, what I would say to them is just begin. You don't overthink it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
We were going to talk about just quickly, and I know we're running out of time, but when it comes to, I know we can buy your amazing, beautiful journals. And I would say, as we've talked about with about journals and books, that they do have an energy. So if you could maybe just for a moment, if we were to, walk into a store, or you're online, or, what are some little of the process of maybe selecting that journal that might work for you or feel right for you? What is that process? Maybe just walk us through.
For myself, you mean?
For yourself, or just maybe for the beginner who's like, "Buy a journal, what?" It's like, okay, here's a piece of,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really just depends on what the purpose of the journal is for yourself. If you're using it just to jot down notes for work, or but if it is something that you are going to be using to write your thoughts in, then I think it would be nicer to have a journal that you feel some kind of connection with, you know. It doesn't have to be a very expensive book. It doesn't have to be even hand bound, for instance, but as long as you make it your own, you know, it could even be something that you add something to, you know, maybe add some artwork to the cover or something like that. But
you do your own doodles, is that what you mean?
yeah,
Like, or
yeah, just something that, you know, you can maybe personalize it a little bit, that you feel a bit more connected to. But I think yeah, if it's a journal that's being used to write in, you know, to write your thoughts in, then I would personally go with something that makes you feel ready to sit down and have a moment with the blank page, so to speak. Because if the out, you know, okay, maybe I do judge my books by their covers.
and you can. That's your art, your craft, your skill. It's amazing.
But also the paper that you know, makes up the pages, that's important to me. It has to be earth friendly, you know, it has to be something that is tree free. I don't like using paper that's you know, just mass produced. I often use a lot of hemp paper or cotton rag paper, all various different kinds of handmade papers. But yeah, I mean, if there's someone that is looking for a journal that, and if they've never tried journaling before, I think, you know, it doesn't even have to be a journal as such. It could just be a blank, loose sheet of paper to begin with. Just begin. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. But I would recommend that they do get something that, you know, really connects with them, because if they're serious about journaling and wanting to tap into a different part of their own psyche, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I'll give a couple little examples. So I was a makeup artist for many years. I worked for MAC, and I would have women coming in. I'm going to liken this to journal shopping, but they would come in looking for that lipstick that's going to help them feel really beautiful, right? And they maybe wouldn't say that, but I could tell. So what I would do is try to find something that they would feel comfortable with, but they also felt very, yeah, just like you could see immediately when they put it on, it was like, it changed their aura, right? It changed their energy. So,
Yeah.
so to me, I think you can, when you're shopping for things, whether it's lipstick or a journal, I think there truly is something to be said for being picky.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it needs to be aesthetically pleasing and something that's soothing to your eye. You know, if you're choosing, whether it's something that you're putting on your face, you're going to want it to look aesthetically pleasing, aren't you?
Yeah.
So the same with any other object, I think, that you have in your home, whether it's, you know, your interior design or anything like that that you're choosing, it needs to resonate with you in some way. You need to feel some kind of connection to it, you know.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy a journal that you just want to hide away in a drawer or at the back of a shelf, you're never going to get to it, you know. It's never going to come off that shelf. So I think if it has to be aesthetically pleasing, something that's soothing, you know, that'll bring you to that sort of meditative state where you feel that, you know, you've got this beautifully curated piece of artwork, in a sense, that you can sit with and just pour your thoughts out into and have a moment of just pure joy, where you know, you feel a kind of a release as well after journaling. If you've had a bad day and you've written it all out, whatever, it doesn't have to even be an account of what made you feel bad, but it could be something entirely different. You don't know how you're going to end up feeling after that, but most of the times it's a feeling of release, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
You out then, it's not you're not just mulling over the idea in your head.
Right. It's true. And once you put it on your paper, it's a release. It's almost like going to a therapist, really, because you're letting it go. And then you're kind of brushing your hands and off you go. It's like, oh, I just needed to get that off my chest. And you feel, yeah, I do. I think you feel better. Yeah. Yeah. There was one thing, it was really cute. When I was in Italy with my kids 2 summers ago, right before COVID hit, we got them quills and journals.
Nice.
And my son, at the time he was 8, it brought me so much joy. And it brought him joy, sitting there with his little quill and just writing. It's like, in order for us to have the next generation involved in and more interested in those old, you said earlier, those crafts that are, I don't remember the word you used, but that are, yeah. I mean, so having him try something and experiencing that, it is a physical sensory experience that you have to try on your own. I can't tell you what it feels like.
So yeah, you were just saying about, your son writing with a quill, and that's basically what I feel it has to be about, like having some kind of tactile poetry in a sense. I mean, without it being written poetry, just the act of writing with a quill in a beautiful journal it's poetic, isn't it? It's romantic and
it is.
Beautiful experience. So just that act in itself can make you feel happy and joyful in that moment, even if it's just for 5 minutes. It's a beautiful experience, and it's really wonderful to see so many people turning to journaling, especially during this crazy past couple of years that we've had. A lot of people just being at home, and during lockdown as well. And so it's been interesting to see more people turning to journaling during this time than ever before.
And I'll say I'm thankful for that. I know it's good for for us as humans. I do. I believe firmly in journaling. It's something that helped me get through so many years of struggle and and coming to a point where I could truly accept myself and be okay with, and not be apologetic for what I would put down. I was talking to my husband about it, but I said, I thankfully didn't burn my journals because I was ashamed of what I put in them. I've actually kept them.
Once.
You did once. Hey, I may have ripped out a page or two, okay? Because I was angry at the person I was talking about. Fine, you're out of my history. Goodbye. But I was thinking about your beautiful books, and I said, you know what? It's so worth it to buy her books because I won't want to burn them. They're too beautiful, No, they really are so stunning. So please tell us where our listeners can find your amazing work. And I know they come in they're released because you have a limited amount. They're not mass produced. So tell us.
I have 2 sides really to my creative business, where I create one-of-a-kind collections, which I usually release a new collection maybe every 3 to 4 months, sometimes every 2 months, depends really.
Depends on how much energy you have and
like how long it takes me, should I say. So and then I also have a few different collections that I repeat that that are maybe taken on pre-order. So those are opened up a couple of times a year where I take pre-orders for them. Journals are made and sent out into the world. And then, that gives me time and space and a bit of breathing space to then work on a one-of-a-kind collection that has really, you know, been sort of brewing in my mind for a while. So yeah, I mean, I have one particular collection which is called The Storyteller, and that's one of my signature collections that I do repeat. And that one actually began as a one-of-a-kind collection, but as I was adding to it, so many people just fell in love with it and wanted one. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I could create it in a way that I can repeat these journals. So the covers are like a soft sort of flexible cover, which are printed like a fine art print, and they're created with, most of them are with my own artwork, and then some of them are I use antique sort of archival artwork, which is then digitally enhanced. But they were inspired by these two boxes that I found amongst a collection of trinket boxes that belonged to my grandmother. And she used to collect these boxes, like music, you know, music boxes, jewelry boxes that had little music players in them. But there was these two particular boxes that she had probably picked up when, during the early 70s, my grandparents traveled from England to Pakistan by road.
Wow. By car?
In two like camper vans.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people were doing that from England in those days, you know, those like that hippie trail going through England into Yugoslavia, into Europe, in what was Yugoslavia, and then, you know, going through Iran and Afghanistan and then into Pakistan and then back again. But yeah, I mean, she probably picked up those boxes in Iran somewhere because they have these beautiful Persian miniatures on them. So that kind of sparked the idea for creating a collection of journals with Mughal and miniature Persian artwork on them. I have a real love for that style of painting, and that's why I love frescoes so much as well. My dog is barking again.
That's okay. We love animals.
I'll just let him. So I created a small sort of collection thinking, okay, these are just going to be one-offs and that's it. But then, you know, I was getting so many people asking if I would make more. So yeah, then I changed the Storyteller collection into one that I take pre-orders for. So the last pre-orders I took was, I think, in the summer, it was around July time. So I'm hoping to open them up for pre-orders again, maybe in January, February, coming into the new year. But I do actually have Christmas coming up as well. So there will be a good selection from those which are, you know, those collections which I repeat. So there's a few on, there's a gallery on my website where you can view all the different collections. And yeah, there's quite a few there to go through. But my newsletter is probably the best way to keep in the loop of what's coming, what's on offer, what's one of a kind, and also, you know, when pre-orders open up for certain things. So there's a lot going on, and I have to kind of pace myself because I have all these different ideas for new collections, and I'm thinking, no, Moneeza, you're already working on a collection. For another time, you know. But yeah, there's probably more books in my head than I will have time to make in my lifetime, but eventually.
Hopefully you can leave a legacy of your, at least your drawings, so that people will be able to somehow be able to masterfully create these ideas. I'm grateful. Your mind is so beautiful and imaginative and brilliant, and I know you, through travel and through your own personal experiences and through probably family stories and being able to kind of recreate these experiences, you've been able to put those into your books through all of the senses, you know. I even smell. I don't know about taste, but
Well, still, yeah. I mean, I like the unboxing experience to be kind of like a sensory experience. I mean, I
Beautiful.
used to add like dried lavender and rose petals from my garden, but I no longer am able to do that because of, customs restrictions. So the next best thing is spraying them with perfume or adding some incense. So, I want it to be a sensory experience for them, even when they're journaling as well, for them to maybe light some incense or a candle or something like that to make it
Yeah.
a experience,
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you are offering us all the senses in the world. No, you're bringing us something that is unique, and it's going to be something we can take with us always. Journaling, creating these gorgeous books. So please tell us where we can find them.
Well, you can find my journals when they're available at lotusbluebookart.com. And you can also find me on Instagram. Yeah, and if anyone would like to connect through my newsletter, I also have a newsletter that goes out once or twice a month, where I share what I'm working on and the inspiration behind new collections. And also recently I launched my first bookbinding course because so many people were contacting me asking me if I would teach. And I thought, I don't think I can teach, but it was a bit of a learning curve for me as well. And I think, it's really nice to be able to share what I've taught myself to other people. The first course that I created was actually on a style of book that I don't create anymore myself, not to create to sell, but I just create it for myself. So I thought it would be a good place to start because those are the kind of books that I began my bookbinding journey with.
What is
So
that book? What kind of book is it?
it's a kind of an alternative case binding, which allows the book to expand if you want to fill it up like a scrapbook or a junk.
Oh, like
But it's
accordion style-ish? No.
not an accordion. It actually looks like a proper hardback book, but the spine is bound on an inner sort of spine. There's like two spines within it, so it allows the book to open flat, and it also allows you to add bulky ephemera, or if you want to add maybe pressed flowers or letters or photographs, anything you like. So those were the kind of first sort of books that I made, and that was what I created the course on. So hopefully in the new year I'd like to maybe move on to a more intermediate course where I can teach people how to make books that are maybe a little bit of a better, bigger sort of structure.
I love it. It sounds like we need to open a university. The University of Lotus Blue Book Art. I think what you're doing
For
huh?
me, and I mean, there's still so much more that I need to learn, and as I'm learning it, I suppose I could pass on what I have learned. But there's so much to bookbinding, so much more than what I'm doing already. It's a vast area a vast craft to explore.
I thank you. Oh my goodness. Well, I've been inspired by our conversation, and I'm grateful you've spent time with me today.
Having me, it's been nice talking to you, and maybe one day we could meet in Florence at a bookbinding convention or something. that would be amazing. That would be my dream, actually, to take a month-long sabbatical in Florence and some kind of bookbinding company.
Okay, Moneeza, now you've done it. I'll be looking into that. No, you say Italy, Florence, bookbinding, hanging out with Moneeza, all the beautiful things that will inspire us of Italy. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Bookbinding retreat in Florence. Manifest it in those journals. People manifest it.
I will go immediately write it down. Well, thank you again, Moneeza. You have been truly just enlightening, and I'm so grateful that you've taken this time away from creating books. So I'll let you go so you can, probably bedtime, but no.
Very much, Jai. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. All the sense in the world. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.